Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the F1 Word Live again. It's constant this weekend. I'm loving it. Absolutely brilliant. Hope everybody is well in chat. Happy Friday as well. We've had a couple of practice sessions to sink our teeth into and thoroughly enjoy. Throwing up some, I think, surprises. I'm going to go with surprises, particularly who topped the session. I know we were expecting them to do well in a certain sector of the racetrack, but they did very, very well today all round. In terms of lap time, at least, and a few that look like they might be in a bit of trouble. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Of course, again, hope everyone's all right. I will be coming to chat a little bit later for your predictions and opinions all on tomorrow, obviously qualifying as well and whatnot. So, yeah, let's just take a moment to enjoy another Friday practice session. It's good after after a set of triple headers to have 2 weeks without F1. Kind of feels like withdrawal. I know that sounds ridiculous and it's a little bit over the top, but so used to having it every weekend, it's just feels like it's been away forever. But there you go. They are your first session results from today. Daniel Ricciardo did top the session for Red Bull, a 1:13.525, but only just, 4 thousandths of a second clear of Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Nothing between them. He did do fewer laps than the Mercedes as well, though, but it's not all good news for Daniel Ricciardo and Red Bull, as we will cover a little bit later on. It is only Friday, and that kind of sums up Red Bull's day, really, certainly in terms of Daniel Ricciardo. Max Verstappen also looking very strong, as we saw as well in second practice, which we'll see in just a moment. Nearly a couple of tenths off his teammate, and not a million miles away from Hamilton either. So Red Bull looking very strong. Ferrari, I can't really, they're fourth, and on paper you'd say, they're having a rough weekend, but they did only use a soft tyre with Sebastian Vettel this morning, and they're usually a couple of tenths off on a Friday anyway. So, yeah, I think they're right in there. It is very close at the top of the field, absolutely, definitely. Valtteri Bottas, he sits in 5th place. Kimi Räikkönen in 6th. Quite a way off the pace, Räikkönen. I'd have to say that's half a second off his teammate on the same tyre. Whether or not they were running different programs, I don't know. But that looks a long way off his teammate. And for a guy that, let's be honest, is under a little bit of pressure from one Charles Leclerc, that is a big gap. Hopefully that will close up over the course of the weekend. Romain Grosjean and Haas look very, very good, as does Kevin Magnussen, therefore, of course. I think they look about best of the rest this weekend. In fact, actually, all Ferrari-powered cars look very, very good this weekend. They really, really do so far. A long way to go, and all the important stuff is still to come, of course. This is only Friday, as I will keep saying, but they look good, Haas. They look good, and Grosjean needs a good weekend. Charles Leclerc, P9, absolutely. What else can you say about him, really? He just continues to impress and continues to improve. Nico Hülkenberg in 10th place. Perez 11th. Force India quite confident ahead of this weekend. I'll talk about them a bit in a moment as well. McLaren P12. They do look a long way off, but they did put out a little disclaimer this morning that they were running a lot of new parts on the car that were nothing to do with Germany, kind of using it as a bit of a test session. So although they look a long way off, don't panic, McLaren fans. There is some speed in there, but at the same time, don't get your hopes too high, as we'll see on the FP2 times in a moment. Lance Stroll, not bad this morning. 13th for Williams. I really struggle with what to say for Williams. 13th, not bad. I mean, what happened to that team? It's so frustrating. Carlos Sainz, 14th for Renault. Hartley, quicker than Gasly today, in 15th. Sergei Sorokin, 16th. Nicholas Latifi, he got a run out this morning. What is that? I didn't really look at him. 17th, so what? 6 tenths off his teammate. That's not too bad. That's not too bad from him for an FP1 session. Yeah, I think he'll take that. PA Gasly in 18th place, 2.5 seconds off the fastest time. Antonio Giovinazzi had a bit of a hairy moment, losing his part of his engine cover this morning. So got to see some interesting inner workings of a Sauber, which was quite good. There is a picture of it on the stream a little bit later on. Again, looking at him versus his teammate, 1.1 seconds off. That's difficult to judge. I'd probably say that's not too bad, actually, because I don't think he'd be... Yeah, Ericsson's not exactly right on the back of Leclerc, is he? So that's not too bad. And Van Dorn, as I was saying, McLaren running a bit of a test session this morning, so I don't know what we can read into that, or at least I didn't at the time. And then we arrived at FP2. Here are your second practice times. You see Red Bull still looking very, very good. It's all in that final sector, I'm sure it is. They're running as well. Such a high rake on that car. It's ridiculous. I mean, they always do, but it looks so... It looks bizarre from the side on, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it at the end of the day. The 2 Mercs behind that and the 2 Ferraris again. The Ferrari's right in there, a couple of tenths off. Raikkonen definitely closer to his teammate. Haas again, best of the rest. Leclerc 1 position better in 18th place. Really, honestly, I think that the Ferrari engine cars are probably the ones to beat this weekend. I think I don't get me wrong, I don't expect Haas to be troubling Mercedes or Red Bull or anything stupid like that, but I think Renault will struggle to get too close to them, although it is still close in the midfield. Force India, again, 10th and 11th place. Hulkenberg there in 9th. Sainz 12th. Ricciardo down to 13th. Look very heavy, very much race sim, I think, going on there. Ericsson, there we go, can use that as a guide, can't we? P14, 14.7, so... 4/10 or something. Yeah, maybe Giovinazzi not quite so good, but not a million miles away from Ericsson's pace, really. Versus his teammate, at least. Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley then came along. Yes, and look at that back four. Look at that back four. It is just... I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. Alonso, Stroll, Sirotkin, Van Dorn. That's McLaren, Williams, McLaren. Yes, it's not good, is it? It's we keep knocking them, and they're becoming a bit of a meme between them, but that just is not good to look at. And I'm sure there are McLaren and Williams haters out there that probably absolutely love it. But yeah, no, I do feel for them. I can't help but feel for them a little bit, to be honest with you. But they are your practice times. I'll throw them back on screen a little bit as well while we're kicking through this. Someone complaining of lag. There could be a little bit of lag in this stream, by the way. I'm just going to keep an eye on chat a second because the settings are different due to something we're trying on Sunday, which I did put back, but it might just be that I haven't done it properly. But yeah. Is the host lag or client lag? I think it's nothing my end. I've got the stream up and the OBS as well, and everything's running absolutely fine for me. So don't worry. Don't let it dent your impression of the streams. We're usually spot on. I've just altered some settings to try something out, and it's not really going the way I wanted it to. It's latency, that's the word I'm looking for, that we're trying for. Obviously, the watch along on Sunday, we want to be as close to real time as we can be, and the only way to do that is to run ultra low latency, and that can cause problems for some people. So if it does cause problems in this one, call it a little bit of a test if you like. If it does cause problems in this one, I will pop it back up to the next level as we were before, but that could cause problems on Sunday, but we'll not worry about that now. So what are we thinking? I mean, Daniel Ricciardo, again, top in FP1, looked very, very good. The pace is definitely there in the Red Bull, looked very good in that final sector, as I say. But he's going to be starting from the back of the grid on Sunday, regardless of what he does tomorrow in qualifying. He has taken a new MG UK, a new energy store, English, Sean, a new energy store and some control electronics as well. And that means he has exceeded the new rule that was brought into play this year of a 15-place penalty. And so regardless, he has got to start from the back of the grid. So he is already talking about only doing a run in Q1 to save mileage. It's all about getting set up for Hungary, because Red Bull will be favourites there. I don't think there's much doubt in that. When you look at how they've been at certain tracks this year, they will be favourites at Hungary. I think what will frustrate Daniel Ricciardo internally, he's sort of come out after the session and said, it would be worse if this had happened as a surprise. We were expecting it, so it's not too bad. But inside, I'm a bit frustrated because that car's quick. And they are right in there, and you only have to look at Max Verstappen in FP2 to see that. So I've kind of got a mixed emotion on Ricciardo with this one. Part of me is absolutely gutted that he's not going to be up there fighting for the win and be in the mix and be able to give us a run for pole position if they can get a decent engine mode, if you like, from Renault for the day on Saturday, which it doesn't look like they'll get. They're already talking about how Mercedes and Ferrari have the edge, but it's just gutting that he's not going to be up there fighting. However, flip that over. Turn 6 is a hell of a dive bomb spot, and he's starting from the back of the grid, so we get to see a brilliant Daniel Ricciardo comeback. So I'm kind of torn. I'm disappointed he's not going to be up there, but I'm also quite excited that he's down the back of the field. So if nothing else, we are going to get overtaking, provided he gets through the first lap, of course. We're going to get some overtaking in the race. So that's something to watch out for, definitely. I'm just sort of looking through the order for... I want to talk about Force India. That was the other team. They are quite confident, or... Yes, fairly confident. Cautiously optimistic is probably the way to describe how... that Otmar, I can never say his name, Otmar, we'll just call him Otmar, was talking after, and he's kind of quite sort of quietly optimistic that they can make Q3 on Sunday. I look at those times and yeah, I suppose they're in there, but the Ferrari powered cars look so good this weekend. Haas look like best of the rest. I think Renault are going to struggle to get near them. Renault have got the better car than Force India. Yeah, Force India the better engine, but they've not got the better chassis. So I think if Renault are going to struggle to overturn Haas, I can't see Force India doing it. It would be great to see them in Q3. It really would, because they kind of need that. So Yeah, I think they're optimistic, but I would err on the side of caution with that if you are a Force India fan. But they do, full stop, across the board, look a lot better this weekend. There's no doubt about that for me. I think they look brilliant. Williams also, I touched on them there, Lance Stroll 13th in FP1. The pace looked there this morning, and I wondered if they were going to pull a surprise, what with having that Mercedes engine in the back of the car. Maybe that was making the difference, and they were going to have a chance of making it through the field, and maybe a few clever safety cars or lucky safety cars and perhaps a few retirements, they might be able to sort of be on the fringes of the top 10, maybe pushing a lucky point. But then FP2 came along and just back to reality for Williams. It is frustrating, as I was saying. So yeah, it's what practice has done for me today is kind of thrown what I expected out of the window and really surprised me. I know Jonty said on Wednesday that he thought Red Bull were going to be surprising this weekend and could be strong. I doubted it. I fully expected they'd be good in the final sector, but I did not think that they were going to be able to challenge this early in the weekend. And they have. And that's kind of thrown everything out the window for me. I still do think that probably Hamilton will nick pole on Saturday. I think Mercedes are close enough. I'd say close enough, they're basically matching the times, but they're close enough to get that pole position. Ferrari will, of course, turn everything up on Saturday and be right in the mix as well. So practice tomorrow is going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. I don't usually get too excited about FP3 because I find it a bit... Perhaps it's just me. Tell me what you think in the chat, but sometimes FP3 on a Saturday feels to me like F1 have gone, we kind of need to do something this morning before qualifying, so why don't we just do that for an hour? I know it's not that, but it's just the feeling I get with it. Nobody's really bothered by it. You get a few quali runs in there and it gives you a rough idea, but it's certainly going to be interesting tomorrow. I'm quite looking forward to seeing just how much of an advantage Mercedes and Ferrari have over Red Bull, because that is going to be critical for what happens come Sunday. So yeah, I don't know why. I never look forward to Saturday FP3, but I really am tomorrow. And of course, qualifying is going to be brilliant. Chance of rain as well. Aaron Dix has just said so. Just asked a question. Is there a chance of rain over the weekend? There is a chance of rain in quali, which I think could play quite well into obviously Red Bull's hands with Max Verstappen. But I think that could actually work very well for Mercedes because we know what Lewis Hamilton can do in the wet. And if Ferrari are close, that could just give him the edge there. And come Sunday, it's going to be quite critical. Of course, that rain as well washes away quite a bit of rubber. There's not really any support races this weekend either, so there could be quite a green track if there's enough rain on Saturday and overnight to spice that race up on Sunday. But I'm going to be honest, I really want a wet race because it has been a long time since we've had a proper wet Grand Prix and a little bit of chaos in the wet, so I would love that. But if we can't have that, I want temperatures on the track like they've had today, because look at what happened in Austria. Yes, I know, tyre blistering and things, it's dangerous and whatnot, but it certainly gave us a hell of a Grand Prix, a lot of unpredictability, and the blistering that we saw in practice 2 today would certainly, as Daniel Gauss just said in comments, would certainly force a 2-stopper on Sunday. And that'll mix things up very, very well. And when you look at the tyre choices for the weekend, Charles Leclerc is a great example. He's taken 3 sets of the medium tyres. So if he has got those and he's got a spare set, he could quite easily run soft to medium in the race, and he could bring himself right into play for a decent whack of points on Sunday. So there are a number of other drivers that will have medium tyres, of course, absolutely, but it just, a really hot Sunday with a bit of tyre blistering and whatnot would be brilliant, or a wet race. I don't want one of these... I'm trying to think of an example. Like Canada, where it was just right. Everything was spot on condition-wise for looking after your engine, looking after your tyres, looking after it. Oh, we don't want that. We want racing. We want a little bit of unpredictability. So, yeah, Flying Tiger says Pirelli is worried. I've not seen anything much from Pirelli actually today. They've been quite quiet, I thought, compared to normal. Whether or not they're hiding away after what happened in Austria and whatnot, I don't with their tyres perhaps. But it's also... what I'm quite looking forward to is seeing how these tyre strategies are going to work out over the rest of the weekend now, because, of course, they've jumped to compound. We've got mediums, softs, and ultra softs rather than the supers. So I love that. Me and Jonty talk about it all the time. It really does throw that little air of unpredictability into things. And when it comes to qualifying tomorrow, let's say it stays dry for argument's sake. Can Mercedes and Ferrari sneak through on a set of soft tyres comfortably? You know, I think they probably could, but it's not the same as the tyre delta between super softs and softs. So there's always that question mark, isn't it? You know, they like to use that harder tyre to try and mix strategy up on the Sunday, but they might not be able to make it through. Certainly, Red Bull might struggle with the Ferrari engines being able to turn up. They might struggle to get through, but it's going to be really, really interesting tomorrow, and I can't wait for quali. We'll go through some predictions. I'll get some of yours as well in the chat towards the end of the stream. But I'm just generally, I know I've said it a few times now, but genuinely quite excited for this weekend. The German Grand Prix, which, by the way, looks like it's not returning. This looks like the last one. Everyone's talking about how it's not going to get funded, and I was very disappointed. I know the Sky coverage I was watching picked up on it, and I was already thinking when I was watching the footage, the grandstands were not, and the banks and things were not as full as I remember Germany being growing up. The German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, growing up, was always rammed. It was kind of like a Silverstone 2.0 in that respect. It was always absolutely packed to the rafters all weekend, and that never really... That just doesn't look like it was going to be a proper German Grand Prix weekend in terms of attendance, and I think that's just going to screw everything over, and I think they're going to end up with no deal, and that would be a real shame. I mean, I would prefer it at the Nürburgring anyway, but it looks like it's going to fall away. And the thing is as well, what I have to say is when you've got Vettel and co coming out and saying it looks like it's going to be the last one, nobody's willing to pay for it, and the crowds aren't turning up. Are the crowds really going to turn up if the talk is that it's not going to be there anymore? I mean, let's say a deal's not done, and I'm not kind of, maybe you could call me biased towards the British Grand Prix, I don't know, but when you look at next year, when it comes to Silverstone, if there's no deal done, I guarantee that place will be packed to the rafters, and people will be forcing Liberty Media into a decision on it, because that weekend is a brilliant weekend and it's always absolutely rammed full. And that is what Germany needed to do this year to convince their local governments, to convince sponsors, to convince the FIA, Formula One, to sign it up in one way. And it's a classic race. It's a big, big name in Europe in terms of Grand Prix racing. It has been for so long. And when you look at the car industry, the motoring industry over there, it's got to be there. But it looks like it's gone. And even the drivers are kind of conceding to that. And that is such a shame. Such a shame. I'm not a big fan of Hockenheim. I do prefer the Nürburgring, but I do think we need a German Grand Prix. And Thomas Ashmore says the pick is blurry. Yes, some of them do that when I set them in a slideshow. I have no idea why. Classic OBS, I suppose. But I'm hoping they can sort it. I'm really, really hoping they can sort it. If they can't, then I don't know what they're replacing. Probably Miami will just come in and fill it. But we'll talk about circuits. We did that on Wednesday. We'll do that another day and we'll cover that properly. But would be a shame to lose it. Just going to have a look through the rest of the result and see if I can kind of pick up any other points from the session, because is there anybody actually in chat, if you want to tell me a team you want me to sort of cover right now, who you thought had a really good day, who I've probably missed off, please feel free to send it my way because as a suggestion, because I will definitely take your feedback on that one, because there are a few that have surprised me. Hartley was good this morning, obviously. Brent slower than his teammate this afternoon, but they're close. The Toro Rossos are very, very close again this weekend. Let's have a look then. So RC wants Renault. So we had, Hulkenberg this afternoon, 9th. Carlos Sainz in 12th. It's that midfield fight, to be honest, is so tight. And you can kind of, one lock-up, one too high on the curb moment, and you are from 9th to 14th. It's so tight in there, and it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I definitely think that Renault have got a great shot this weekend if they keep it clean, but I still believe genuinely that Haas are the best of the rest. And I'm not entirely convinced that Renault, even with their pace this year, are going to be able to overturn that. It's not a huge gap, as I keep saying. Well, I say that's 6/10 this morning between Grosjean and Hulkenberg, but it's still... Maybe it's a Ferrari power track now. Maybe Ferrari have got that advantage. We've talked about it quite a bit, haven't we, on recent streams, and I've put it in videos and chatted to you in comment sections and whatnot about it and who's got the fastest car. And I still think Mercedes have got the edge on one lap and Ferrari have the race pace. But looking at the times today and over the last couple of races, seriously doubt that now, because the Ferrari power unit looks like it might have the edge, which... the law of diminishing returns and whatnot was always going to happen, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Haas can do this weekend. And Romain Grosjean needs a clean weekend. We know that. He's got to deliver this weekend. He was brilliant in Austria. He's got to do it this weekend. Poor in Silverstone. Pressure is on him. Pressure is on him. His career is... he's hanging by a thread. I think he'll see the season out, whatever. but he is hanging by a thread for 2019, so he's got to have a clean weekend. Magnussen, I don't know what else to say about him. He's been brilliant this year, same with Leclerc. So this is somebody asking about, do you think Mercedes still have best cars? Just saying there that I think on one lap I still feel they do, because they can just crank it up a tiny bit more, but having said that, who knows? Those practice slides are being annoying, so I'll get rid of those ones in a minute, but yeah, any other teams you want me to cover very quickly? Have a look through the chat. I did see a couple of suggestions. Somebody said Alpha Sauber. Charles Leclerc mentioned him a little bit earlier. First practice, 9th. Really good from him again. Not a million miles away from the Haas boys, 4/10. And again, this afternoon, he was pretty sound again, I believe. Where is he? Yeah, P8, even better. So, look very good. Toro Rosso, I've just spoken about them. Hartley and Gasly, very tight this afternoon. So, that's exciting. Minardi. Thank you, Reggie. I'll build my time machine and we'll go back and we'll talk about Minardi. I promise. Force India, I did sort of cover them a little bit ago. They're quite confident of top 10 shootout tomorrow. I'm not quite so sure. We could talk about McLaren again, just because I want to make sure. I've seen a few sort of saying they look really poor, maybe a little bit later to the stream, but this morning they were running tests, basically. They were testing everything out for Hungary. It was a Hungary spec on that car, effectively, from what I understand, and so they were kind of making excuses, and I thought, well, maybe, they'll find a pace this afternoon and they're just using it as a test session. And then, as I said at the start, you get to FP2 and they're absolutely nowhere, really. Van Dorn, slowest of the lot, but didn't run the soft tyre, did run 2 mediums and a couple of ultra softs as well. But again, it's kind of really, if you just look at the running order, they look in trouble. But when you look at Alonso's time, it's quite deceptive, because he is 0.3 off 10th. Which is a lot in Formula 1, but it's not huge. It's not a massive gap. So, whereas Van Dorn is, best part of a second off. So, it just goes to show what Alonso can do in that car, to be honest. So, but Williams and McLaren, I don't know. I just don't know what to say about them anymore without sounding like I'm continually bashing on them. It is very frustrating, and it's not good enough from either team, as we've said so many times on this channel. So hopefully things will improve, certainly for McLaren tomorrow. I don't think Williams are going to do too much until, I think they've got upgrades on the car this weekend as well, and they're still nowhere. So it's concerning. By the way, Renault front wing is absolutely gorgeous, and you all know how I like stuff like that. It's beautiful front wing. It's divided people. It has divided people, but I absolutely love it, and hopefully that'll pay dividends. Nico Hulkenberg had an incident in FP1, but wasn't running the first front wing. He ran wide into the gravel trap, and that's, again, gravel traps. We love gravel traps. This is why I love tracks like, not necessarily Hockenheim, but older tracks where you've got all these wonderful gravel traps and whatnot, and it's, I'm weird like that. I can't help it. It's an issue I've got with gravel traps. I love them, but I was trying to think of who. There was somebody else I wanted to talk about. If I'm missing somebody, who will replace Raikkonen last season? Oh, last name will replace Raikkonen last season. Sorry, I read that wrong, mate. Yeah, probably. Somebody's going to. I can't see him saying it. Ferrari. Somebody did ask for 2019 predictions, by the way. I have already done that, so do feel free to go and check that out a little bit later on if you fancy watching another one of my videos. Cheeky little plug there, why not? Both Haas and Charles top 10. Yeah, like I was saying, it's the Ferrari powered cars looking good, and have been doing for a while now, so it does very much look as though the tides have turned. So quite exciting for the rest of this season. Do you think Leclerc will get into Q3? Eggy wants to know. Yeah, probably. I think so, because Ferrari have got that extra little wick to turn up, haven't they, if you like? Turn the wick up a little bit on that engine, so they could just make the jump on Renault. So, yeah, I think he could. It wouldn't be a surprise either. I think that's a surprise in itself, is that it wouldn't be a surprise, if that makes sense. Kind of not coming to expect it, but when it happens, you kind of go, oh, he's had a good weekend again. Whereas 6 races ago it was amazing, and now it's just what he's doing, and that's why I can't see anybody else in that Ferrari next year, because why not? He's still young, and it's not like Ferrari to go down that road where they pick up a youngster, but he's already proving himself, and we're only 10 races into the season, so I can't see anybody else taking that seat. I'd snap him up in a heartbeat. Ferrari power teams are finally being rewarded, says Andrew Drury. Absolutely. It's taken a long time. I mean, I know a lot of Mercedes fans and a lot of Lewis Hamilton fans will be frustrated that I'm kind of pouring the praise on Ferrari, but from a neutral perspective, for the two to be this close, this is what we want. We don't, you can be a fan of a driver or a fan of a team, but having one team dominate is not what we want. So having Ferrari and Mercedes this close and all this uncertainty almost every single weekend. Oh, Mercedes will be quick here. Oh, hang on a minute. Ferrari are. Oh no, Ferrari will be quick here. Oh, wait a minute. Red Bull are. That's what we want. That's racing. That's Formula One. And if they can nail it in 2021 and get us some more teams in the mix, it's going to be brilliant. So I just want to see more fights, mostly boring races. I wouldn't say mostly boring races, but we've had a few proper dull ones this year, I think. But we've had some really good ones as well. Alexander, good question. Thoughts on ban of the tyre heaters? It's been confirmed, I believe it's officially confirmed, that they're going to be using bigger wheels in 2021 and they're banning tyre warmers. I think there are other things that could have been addressed, and I'm sure they will be addressed, and we'll get more in the next few weeks, I'm sure. But I think that's good. It's a cost thing, which is going to be helpful in terms of losing tyre blankets. I think they're fairly expensive from what I understand. But more importantly, it means it's all down to the driver to get them tyres heated up. And that is going to put more emphasis on a lot of stuff. And I think that's going to mix things up nicely at the start of races. It's going to come down to how well a driver can turn their tyres on. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think it's a great idea. And the more things like that can go and become reliant on the driver's ability is important. So, 18-inch wheels. Somebody's just, 18-inch rims, says Red G. Absolutely. I think they look great. I know a few people aren't very happy with it. I know a few think they look a little bit ridiculous, but yeah, I think it's pretty. I don't know. They just look aggressive. I want aggressive looking cars, exciting looking cars, and sometimes in the past, when you got to, I'm trying to think of an example, 2011, the cars look like they're on casters rather than wheels. They just look ridiculous. So these new bigger tyres we got for 2017 were a great step, and now we're going to get the big wheels to go with them, and that's going to be good. They're narrowing the front tyres as well, aren't they, as well? If I'm correct. I might be wrong. But it's going to divide people. Some will love them, some will hate them. But what I will say is, a little bit like the Halo, you'll get used to them very quickly. We always do. So Racing said, I think it's a pointless change. That will just massive drive costs up. In terms of, because they've obviously got to redesign suspension. Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to work. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. It's the same with the 2019 regs. We talk about it so much, and it sounds like I'm moaning again, but you've got these, we want to cut costs. We are going to put a cost cap on. We want to bring costs down and make sure this field bunches up. By the way, I know we've got a rules reset in 2 years. It's going to cost you a bloody fortune, but we want to redesign the cars next year as well. Do you mind? What? Make your mind up. It's the costs. The costs aren't going to come down in Formula One. They can try all they like. There's ways around it. We touched on it on, I think it was Sunday, might have been in Wednesday's stream. We touched on it. There's a reason Red Bull would like to keep Toro Rosso, because you can be clever with the way you distribute your money there and how you use your resources. There's a reason why Ferrari are pouring more money into Sauber, and there's a reason why Mercedes are looking at Williams and or Force India, because you're just able to move your money around and you can pool your resources and effectively get the same thing, and it doesn't really change anything. So it's all just, I think it's all for show, and I don't see teams like Ferrari and Mercedes accepting it anyway. So I did see a very good question a second ago that just came through that I think was relevant to the weekend, or I may be just making it up and thought of something and forgot it. Interested that Haas aren't doing the Hungary test, says Dylan. Apparently that was a decision taken before all this with Ferrucci, but I do have my suspicions. We have to take them on face value on that, though, to be fair. Let's get into some predictions then. What are you thinking? I said on Tuesday in the preview that I think Hamilton will take pole today, and that Vettel will go and take Vettel will go on and take the win on Sunday. Looking at the times today and how close Ferrari are, if I'm not going to change it for the sake of Sean versus Jonty, because I can't do that, because that would just be, it would be unfair on Jonty. But I think Vettel's in with a very good shot tomorrow. I really do. I don't think Red Bull will get it. I can't see Verstappen taking pole, not because he's not quick, but because obviously they haven't got that extra engine mode or whatever they want to call it. So what are you thinking in chat? Pop some names in chat who you think is going to get pole position, or who's going to surprise tomorrow, I suppose, is a good question as well. Who could be a big surprise package? I'd say Leclerc, but again, I wouldn't be overly surprised by that. But I think Grosjean is definitely one to watch for tomorrow's qualifying session. I think he could really surprise But I hope that whatever Renault upgrade comes in the future, they can give Red Bull and Renault and all the Renault powered teams an extra engine mode to try and make this even closer in qualifying. Leclerc for pole, K-Mag second, says Thomas. No, I don't. Why not? Yeah, all right then. I'll go with that. Will Hulkenberg replace Kimi? No, I can't see that one. I think Hulkenberg's chance for Ferrari is gone, unfortunately. Alonso for pole in a rain quali. I will be stunned if it happens. K-Mag beat a Red Bull. I think he's going to beat one. Definitely 100% on that one because Ricciardo's starting from the back, but it would be a big push. It would be a big push. I think it could be one of those qualifying sessions where Verstappen just kind of sits in no man's land, but the race, they're going to be right in there. And that's what matters at the end of the day, isn't it? Qualifying is great and it is exciting, but there's no points dished out until Sunday, so that's what matters. Verstappen gets his first pole. I've got a full top 10 there from Caleb. Vettel, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Bottas, Magnussen, Leclerc, Verstappen, Grosjean, Sainz and Ocon. So you think that at least, one Haas is going to get, two Haas's and a Sauber are going to get past. Oh, I like that. I like that prediction. It's a little bit wild, but that's, why not? Don't see that happening. Mighty Dash rubber is glued to rims currently. I don't know why I read that. That's clearly a private conversation chat, but whatever. Ferrari is a midfield team in the rain. I wouldn't go that far, but I think Red Bull would definitely be favourites for pole if it's raining, and I think you'd probably be looking at Hamilton in behind there, and then Vettel maybe third or fourth, but they're definitely not. They're not on pace really when it comes to the rain, are they? 2-stop or 1-stop race. I'm hoping for 2 stops. If it's as hot as it is today, it will be a 2-stop strategy. Did you see the tyres on? It was Vettel's car and it was one of the Renaults as well. Absolutely torn to pieces almost with blistering. Absolutely unbelievable. I was not expecting. The heat in Europe at the minute is insane. Absolutely insane. We saw it in Austria, the same at Silverstone. But yeah, it's interesting. I hope that's going to spice things up nicely on Sunday for us all. Wet race chances. From what I've seen, it's very slim chance of rain on Sunday, but they're pretty sure there's going to be some sort of rain at some point on Saturday. And they're usually, our luck being the way it is as fans, as we saw in France, it'll probably chuck it down as soon as the checkered flag comes out. So we'll probably not get a rain hit session. But we'll see when it comes to Sunday. Hopefully they will give us a wet race or a really hot one so that we've got a little bit of chaos. But we'll see how that goes. Blistering will indeed spice things up. Haas at pole. I will be stunned if Haas get pole, but at the same time, it will be absolutely brilliant. Let's just fly through a couple more predictions then before I disappear. Bottas for pole. Be a great way to celebrate his new contract, wouldn't it, with Mercedes, and shut us all up this morning, those of us that were saying, including me, that were saying he's not ruthless or aggressive enough sometimes, so be a good one. Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Raikkonen. One day he will. There will be a race weekend this season when he will start on pole because he will just get through that final sector without making a mistake on his final lap, and he'll surprise us all. So he will get a pole this year if he can just nail that final flying lap, because that's been his biggest problem this year. He's another driver whose season could have been very different if he hadn't made the mistakes in those final qualifying runs. So very, very much needs to do that. Vettel, Kimi might take pole. What lap will Williams retire? I'll let you guys decide that one. I'm not going to jump into that one for this stream. Just scrolling through any more. Sorokin for P1. Kimi pole at Spa. If he's going to do it, I think he's got a good chance there, because that's very much a Kimi track, isn't it? He's always loved that. Seb, Lewis, Max, Bottas and K-Mag. So a lot of you actually quite confident that the Haas's are going to be able to get among the Red Bulls tomorrow, if I'm reading that right. So, yeah, okay. That's a good one. Couple saying, Ricciardo, if you're late to the stream, Ricciardo can't start from pole tomorrow. Whatever he does in qualifying, he will start in P20 or 19 or 18, depending on if anybody else takes some engine penalties as well. So qualifying, not great for Danny Rick tomorrow. But like I said at the start, we do get Danny Rick coming back through the field with dive bombs up at that turn 6 hairpin, almost guaranteed. Can't wait for that. I think Haas could be close to pole. I mean, they're not. I don't know if they'll be close to pole, but I think they can be close to Red Bull. I just don't think they're gonna quite nick it, but a few of you definitely seem to think that Haas are going to be in and around those Red Bulls or that Red Bull this weekend. So great chance for them to pick up some big points. And of course, earlier this week, Nico Hülkenberg said that he thinks that Haas are now their biggest threat to fourth in the Constructors. So what could have been if they had them points in Australia, and if they can do it here as well? You know, they would probably they would be fourth. They would be fourth, especially if they get a good one this time round. So Rick can not qualify. He can qualify, but whatever is pointless basically. He can go out and set the fastest lap that we've ever seen in Hockenheim, and he still start 20th. So it's likely he'll do a very slow lap in Q1 and then start from 20th. So yeah, disappointing, but also look forward to the race. Haas is very close to Red Bulls. Haas can win this race. They'd need a lot of chaos. They definitely need a lot of chaos, but if they're best of the rest and the top five start tripping over each other, then, you know, podiums are not beyond the realms of possibility, but they would need a hell of a lot of luck. Double Ferrari retirement odds this time. I'm not going to get into that one. I'm not going to get into that one. And a couple more questions before I go. Merc start on soft tyre is one question that's come through a couple of times, actually, to be honest. As I said earlier, it's a bit of a gamble. They should be able to get through in Q2 on soft tyres, but with that gap in the compounds, so instead of the super soft, we've now got the ultra soft, that could make it a little bit too nervy for them, and they might not fancy that. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'll take one more prediction or question from the chat that I can throw an opinion at. Max Pole, because Ricciardo will tow him, so this quali won't be useless. I just can't see Ricciardo going out and pumping in the laps to get to Q3 to do that, to be honest, because it's a lot of mileage on an engine that he doesn't need to put on that, whether it's helping Max or not. I get what you're saying, and it's a very good point, but I think it would be to have an engine change already for Hungary, where Red Bull should be the favourites. It would be silly for him to go out and set super quick laps to get into Q3 just to help his teammate out when they're going to have good race pace anyway, and they can pull a good strategy, and safety cars are possible, and they're very likely around Hockenheim. So yeah, I think more likely we're going to see a China moment, I think, where they make a good call on strategy there in regard to the safety car and maybe nick the win. So, yeah, I think we're going to leave it there because I'm kind of just throwing opinions and predictions out there and speculating over what's going to happen in the race. But we can do all of that when we get into the rest of this weekend, because there are lots and lots of live streams coming up this weekend. Now, tomorrow, I am going to be live during qualifying, but only as an unlisted stream. It won't be a public stream, because what I want to do is I've got some live timing sorted for the watch along on Sunday. So I'm hoping to get some feedback. So if there's anybody that wants to come along to watch that, just to help me out, give me feedback on lag and delays and things like that, that'd be absolutely brilliant. I'll share a link on Discord and Twitter. So if you do want to come along to that, keep an eye on your sub boxes, not your sub boxes, but on Twitter and Discord tomorrow, probably about 10 or so minutes before the session starts, because that way you'll be able to join, but it won't drop into your sub boxes on YouTube. So I will be live, but you won't see it, if that makes sense. So you'll need to follow the link on Twitter and Discord, but the feedback will be awesome, because the best way for me to know if the stream is lagging or there's too much of a delay is if you guys tell me, because I can't really do that myself. So we'll hopefully do that tomorrow. I will then have either a video or a live stream after qualifying. I'm still sulking and throwing my toys out the pram, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do tomorrow with regard to the qualifying report. It will either be live or it will be a recorded video. I've not decided yet. It all depends on what mood I wake up in on the morning, and that's kind of, yeah, that's how I roll most days, to be honest. Then, of course, there is the race watch-along, which obviously, therefore, will include the pre-race show. I just want to clear that up. Somebody asked me earlier. There won't be a pre-race show, then a watch-along, then a race debrief. It will just be the watch-along, which includes a pre-race show, and then the debrief after that. So, 5 o'clock for the debrief. As I said earlier, you definitely want to come along to that one, because we've got somebody making their stream debut, and that's all I'm going to say. But you don't want to miss it. Really looking forward to that one. In the meantime, though, of course, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.